Hi, welcome back to Wikipedia. In this episode, we're going to recap the movie Bruce Almighty. Please relax and enjoy the spoiler ride. In Buffalo, New York, Bruce is a humorous news reporter who covers ordinary news items like Buffalo Bakers baking the largest cookie in history, but really desires to be the station's anchorman. After watching his news coverage with his girlfriend, Grace, Bruce laments his inability to land the anchorman job due to the uninteresting stories he chooses to cover. The following morning, Bruce calls Grace for going to the Red Cross to donate blood, saying it's a waste of time. Before setting up, Grace gives Bruce a rosary beads, claiming that he needs them more than she does. Bruce hesitantly accepts the beads and expresses his annoyance at being caught in traffic while rushing to get to a crucial appointment at work. After arriving late to the meeting, Bruce's desired position is grabbed by his competitor, Evan, who proceeds to make fun of Bruce's clownish news coverage style with his other co-workers. After the meeting, Bruce asks Jack, his boss, to give him the vacant anchor post. In the meantime, Jack asks Bruce to join Evan for a live coverage of a significant topic, which Bruce gladly agrees to because he believes he will serve as the anchor. After anxiously anticipating his name being called, Bruce is shocked to learn that Evan has been chosen as the new anchor. After a catastrophic breakdown and a crude outburst on camera, Bruce is fired from the station. Frustrated at having lost his job, he spots a homeless man who is being bullied by a street gang and goes to help, but is then attacked by the gang. Bruce is late getting home and vents his frustration on Grace, calling their relationship mediocre while blaming God for his bad luck in life. Grace takes it personally, which enrages him even more. He smashes out of the apartment and rushes out for a drive while eagerly pleading with God with a prayer beast to perform a miracle in his life, only to be faced with further string of unfortunate events. Anguished, he hurls the prayer beast into the middle of a lake and shouts to God he is the one that should be fired. Suddenly, Bruce's beeper began to ring abruptly. He puts it off because he doesn't recognize the number and goes back home. The following morning, Bruce is awakened by the same unknown number on the beeper once more. Out of frustration, he throws the beeper into the middle of the street where it is struck by a car. Bruce's untrained dog urinates on a chair, so he takes him outdoors, where, to his surprise, he hears the flattened beeper still beeping. Bruce, who is beyond frustrated, phones the number and, to his surprise, receives a job offer while listening to a recorded message from someone who seems to be well aware of everything that's happening in his life. He is given an address which leads him to an empty warehouse where he meets a man who claims to be God, much to Bruce's amusement. God continues to prove himself to Bruce by showing him a file cabinet containing every event in his life. Bruce, still unsure that he is actually communicating with God, plays a game in which God has to predict how many fingers he holds up. When he raises one hand with 7 fingers, Bruce is finally convinced and also terrified that the man is indeed God. God offers to give his job to Bruce since Bruce believes he's not doing a good job at it and assures him that he will be gifted with all of his powers when he leaves. Bruce, who is still terrified, makes a hasty leave without paying attention to what God has told him. When he discovers that all of his fantasies are quickly coming true outside in the street, he becomes even more terrified and confused. Bruce stops at a cafe to get coffee, and the waitress eventually persuades him to have some red soup. He attempts to divide the soup, and when he sees that it actually does so, he realizes that he actually possesses all of God's abilities. God unexpectedly appears and leads Bruce on a walk while explaining to him the 2 conditions of the agreement. He is not to reveal his identity as God to anybody in order to avoid public attention, and he can't interfere with people's free will. When a boat sails by, Bruce is surprised to realize that he and God are actually strolling along the lake in Buffalo. Now that an agreement has been made, God leaves his job to Bruce and departs for a vacation. Bruce then flees to enjoy himself with his powers. At first, Bruce uses his abilities for selfish purposes, such as bursting a fire hydrant, getting a good look at a cute young girl's bottom, obtaining some slick clothes, and exerting revenge on the street gang that had earlier bullied him by making a monkey appear in the gang leader's butt and spitting a swarm of bees to chase after the rest of the gang. Bruce enters his apartment, this time in a very good mood, where he greets Grace with lots of passion. He uses his powers to create a romantic atmosphere in the apartment and excite Grace with lots of pleasure before making love to her. The following morning, Bruce is startled by unusual voices in his head, but he quickly dismisses them and goes downstairs to complete his meal. In a brief discussion of their night of heavenly lovemaking, Grace surely thinks that her boobs have gotten bigger in some way, but Bruce, knowing he is guilty, quickly dismisses the argument and leaves to reclaim his job. He makes extraordinary things happen at otherwise ordinary events that he covers, including finding a body and a car of a news camera crew full of marijuana during a police training segment and making a media land safely next to a cook-off, eventually gaining him popularity and earning him the nickname Mr. Exclusive. At work, Bruce comes across his nemesis, Evan, doing a live news session and makes him look foolish on television, which results in Evan's dismissal. Meanwhile, at home, Grace also notices that the untrained dog now uses the toilet and even read newspapers while doing so. Bruce takes Grace out on a date where Grace believes he is about to propose, but instead, Bruce reveals that the date is meant to celebrate him finally acquiring the anchorman position at work, much to Grace's disappointment. A little while later, Bruce begins to hear the voices in his head once more. This time, they overwhelm him and force him to leave the restaurant. Outside, he is teleported to the top of Mount Everest, where he meets God once more, who explains that the voices in his head are prayers that Bruce must deal with. To manage the prayers, Bruce sets up a computerized email-like system in his apartment. He tries to go through the prayers and answer them one at a time. However, he quickly realizes that the volume is too great for him to handle, so he instructs the computer to automatically say yes to every prayer. At a party honoring Bruce's promotion, Susan, a hardcore record Bruce's, forcibly approaches him and kisses him. When Grace comes across them, she immediately ends their relationship and takes off in her car. Bruce tries to use his powers to persuade and convince Grace to love him again, but he is unable to interfere with her free will, as God foretold. During a live news session at work, Bruce receives word of a protest on the streets and departs to investigate. He finds that since he said yes to everyone's prayer request, Buffalo has descended into chaos. In this hour of need, Bruce cries out to God, but when he does, he finds himself back at a warehouse where he first encountered God. God is cleaning the floors as he arrives, so Bruce joins him to finish the job. The next, Bruce learns from God that he should always rely on his own abilities to solve his difficulties and that he will have to be a miracle if he wants a miracle. God now departs from Bruce since he thinks Bruce can manage things on his own and soars through the roof to heaven. Bruce then begins assisting others without the need for his special abilities, including making apologies with Evan and returning Evan's job. He also shuts down his automated pre-answering system. When Grace's sister arrives to collect Grace's belongings, she notices that Bruce has finished a photo album of him and Grace together and feels sorry for him, telling him that Grace prays for him constantly. After hearing this, he quickly goes back to his computer to look at all of Grace's prayers and discovers that Grace does indeed include his success and well-being in all of her prayers. Grace instantly offers up another prayer, this time pleading to stop loving him altogether in order to spare herself any more suffering. Bruce, who has now come in terms with his self-centeredness, is by himself on a highway and prays to God to take away his powers while putting his faith in God's hands. Suddenly, a brilliant light shines upon him in the middle of the road and, unfortunately, a truck strikes him. When Bruce encounters God in the afterlife, he is instructed to pray for his true desires. Bruce frankly acknowledges that all he wants is for Grace to find a man who will make her happy. God grants his request, and Bruce is revived and brought to the hospital. When he awakens, he finds that Grace's blood is being used to transfuse him. When Grace finally shows up, she renews her romance with Bruce, and he realizes that he is holding the rosary beads. After getting better, Bruce resumes his field reporting at the Red Cross Community Blood Drive, but he decides to enjoy the ordinary stories more this time. He lets everyone know that he and Grace are now engaged before signing off and leaves with her to go donate blood. Meanwhile, it turns out that a homeless man with an odd sign at the event that reads "I'm getting out of here" is actually God. The end. Hope you enjoyed this recap. Kindly subscribe to this channel for more amazing recap videos like these. Don't forget to also like this video and leave your thoughts and recommendations in the comment section below. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.